Hello everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Hello there, listeners, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. As always, I have the lovely Glenda here with me over in Australia. Hello, Glenda.
Hello, David, and hello, listeners. Welcome back this week.
Yes, and this week it's just Glenda and I. We've had some fantastic guests on recently, and there are still more to come. But we thought this week, and maybe for the next couple of episodes, it'll just be me and Glenda having a chat about a few topics that we want to talk about. But as always, as we always say at the end of an episode, we invite you to send your topics in as well. So again, if you've got topics you want us to touch on, if you've got specific questions you want us to look at as well, please do let us know, because this podcast is also about you and about your understanding of things, about us sharing our knowledge with you and our experience. So do get involved. But with that said, it's just a thank you as well for those of you who have got involved. I know we've reached over 500 downloads now as well, and that's thanks to you guys downloading and listening to the episode. So please keep supporting us on this podcast journey. And another way you can do that is by interacting and getting your questions and topics into us. But anyhow, let's talk about today's topic. And it's based on a recent experience that I've had. And I know, talking to Glenda about it earlier on, that Glenda's also had some similar experiences. And I don't really know what to call it, but we're going to kind of talk about our opinions or views on consciousness. And when we're in a certain state where we have a certain illness or disease, does our soul know? Does our consciousness know when we are ready to go? If that makes sense. So I'm going to give you my recent example. I've got two other examples to talk about later, but this is a recent one, so it's fresh on my mind. And it might get some of you out there thinking about this as well, because I know people do have questions around what I'm about to talk about. But recently I did a public online demonstration of mediumship for a spiritual group on Facebook, or they have their own, their spiritual organization. And I had brought through this gentleman who I described in looks, in character. I even got the relationship to the person I was coming to. So it was a stepfather, not a father, but stepfather. And I did say stepfather. So I described this gentleman and gave other pieces of evidence around it. And a lady did, only one lady put her hand up and said, yeah, that's me. That is my stepdad. And I thought, great, right, I've got the link correct. But then she said, but my stepdad is still alive. And in the next breath she said, but he does have dementia. And it's one of those situations where you're on a public platform, everyone else is watching, and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to put someone in spirit that isn't there yet. But she confirmed to me everything I said was absolutely spot on. And then to add to that, I gave further evidence from him where he was talking about what's happening now, what's going on around the family and him now. So it's not just a case of I exist, it's a case of I exist and I'm existing in spirit now because I'm seeing what's going on. And she understood every single thing that I said. But it really got me thinking about how the spirit works, how our consciousness can be in two places at once. So for me, it kind of, I always thought about this anyway, because I'm like you, Glenda. I know your mum had Alzheimer's, and am I correct?
Yeah, she had dementia. Yeah.
Dementia, yeah. And my step grandma did as well. And I think a lot around that kind of disease, I think there are still lots of questions anyway, and it's and one of them is, I think when we're looking from the outside in to our relatives or loved ones that have had dementia, Alzheimer's. I think we do question: do they know what's going on? Are they hearing us? I know they don't recognize us, but um, are they aware? Are they really seeing their loved ones? Because there's been many times, and you've probably experienced it yourself, Glenda, with your mum, is
Yeah.
that I know certainly when my stepdad and my mum went to see my step grandma, she would say, "Oh, my mum came to visit me the other day, and she's been dead 50 years." And
Mm.
then the doctors and nurses will go, "Oh, it's just her medication. It's just the illness making her that way," and they really poo-poo it. And I'm like, well, no, they're seeing their relatives because it's a kind of a brain disease, and if we know anything about mediumship, we know that it's the brain that's used in it. It's mind-to-mind communication. In my opinion, and I'm not a doctor or a medical expert or a scientist, but in my opinion, that the people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, their consciousness, their mind is in two places. So whilst they're still physically here, for me, their mind has already stepped one foot into the spirit world. So when they say I saw mum or she come to visit me the other day, I believe that they did in their minds, as we see spirit, that they were visited. Their loved ones are coming to say, we're here and kind of getting ready, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I think we're too quick um, to just shun anything that they say, almost like making them like look like they're stupid or they're going really mad because they're seeing their relatives from 50 years ago. But why shouldn't they be? If their mind
Yeah.
is already starting to leave, why is that not the case? And I think it's just we need to think about that a bit more. What are your thoughts on that, Glenda?
Well, I have lots. Where do I begin? Okay, I've just kind of been sitting here jotting things down as you're talking because there's so much on this topic that we can talk about. Well, for one, when we communicate, whether it is with the person that's here or where it's the person that's departed, it's a soul to soul communication,
Mm,
right? So it's soul to soul. So it bypasses that physical brain
yeah,
connecting with, right? It's the consciousness. So it doesn't matter that they have dementia. If their mind is, we're kind of like, how can I explain it? We're not connecting to the wounded condition. We're actually connecting to the eternal consciousness. So we are connecting to that, not what's damaged. So with my connections, I have connected with a lot of people on this in this way, with my clients, whether their dad has dementia, and like you said, everything is validated, but he's actually not cognitive to tell her or nonverbal or you know what
yeah,
I mean? It's
hmm,
and she's like, oh my God, you spoke about this and this with your father. I did. I told him that the other day. Well, please know he's hearing your conversations, even though he's not able to verbalize, yes, I am. He is. So to me, I always felt with mum that she was kind of half here and half there. And if anyone has had any experience with dementia, you will know that your loved one is here 1 minute and they're conscious with you. And it's like they disappear and they go somewhere else and then they're talking to someone else. They don't know who you are. And it's like they're on two planes, right? That's what I
yeah,
used to get with mum.
hmm,
So with mum, I used to also talk to her telepathically. When she was passing, she was nonverbal, she wasn't communicating, but I could hear her thoughts. She was telling me what to do. At one point, I knew she was going to pass, and she was like, "Take dad home." She's telling me in my head. The other thing is, my papa just passed last week, and I said to him, when the night before he passed, because I knew it was coming, I knew it was the next day. And I said to him, you're going to know when it's time. When you do, call me. I said, just like she did, you know, and I gave him the sign, the head. Just put it in my head. Just say it in your head and I will hear it, right? Or call me. You will know when it's time. It was midnight and I stayed with him till like 11:30 or something like that. And the nurse said, I said, I'm just going to go home now, but call me. The nurse rang me and she said, your dad's calling for you. He wants to see you. And I knew that was it.
Mm,
He
yeah.
was going to go. He knew, and
Yeah.
I knew. And it just the talk about the day before, he was talking about this. He actually, it was 5 days. So I want everyone to know this and don't brush this when your people are about to transition. It was around the 5 day mark. He said, Mum's here and I'm calling her. I can see her. And I said, what did you call her? Did you talk to her? And he said, she didn't put her arms out. And I said, she's not ready to take you yet. She's here and she's not ready to take you. I said, you will know when the time comes. So they do know when they're going to go. And when I was sitting there that night with him, she was beside the bed. I could feel her, I could kind of visualize her, but her essence was so strong, it was almost like I was looking at her, and I knew that he was going to go that night.
Mm,
And he knew, but he also told me. But I also feel like that's why they say people in a coma can hear you because they're half here and half there. They hear all of that. That's why you hear about these NDEs. I could look down on my body. I saw everyone come because they're consciously still here. I feel like that, etheric cord, or we call it the
yeah.
silver cord, you're still attached. It's not
Yeah.
been cut yet. Do you know what I mean? So you're you're kind of there and here at the same time.
Yeah.
Does this all make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, because my personal belief is that when we pass from like a disease or natural causes, um, I believe that our spirit body, if you want to call it that, our consciousness, has already started to leave. Because I feel that, again, like, as you just said, I feel on a kind of subconscious level that our soul knows when we're going to pass.
yes,
And unless it's like an accident or God forbid, a murder or a suicide, and that's a little bit different. Because the body's not necessarily expecting it because someone else's free will has got involved at that point. But again, come back to any gut disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, even cancers, where unfortunately, you've got to a certain stage. I feel that yeah, that spirit body starts to leave. Like as you say, it's still attached by that silver cord, as we say. So you're, but you're not necessarily doing that consciously, of course. But I think subconsciously, your soul knows when that time is to go. And I've got some examples based on that as well. And this happened um, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was very early into my development. I know that. It's when I was still doing Facebook Lives. And as you know, as you do when you first start doing these things. And at the time, my mum was working in a care home. She was a senior carer, and she'd got in from work and had come on my and seen me live and came on my live because she likes to watch the lives. And I'd bought through this lady, and I got her name. I got the fact that she had a necklace for every occasion, that she was in a care home, that she only drank out of one cup, the colour of her hair, her character, personality, her mannerisms, certain things that she would do. But no one could take it. And I thought, oh, I know, I hate
mm,
when that happens, and most mediums do,
yeah,
to be honest.
mm,
And her name was Doreen. I remember that. And so I thought, okay, I can't, I'm not gonna, force on anybody. If no one can take her, you can't take her, and that's it. Um, Anyhow, the next morning, I get a text from my mum, and she said, "You're never going to believe this." I said, "What?" She went, "That Doreen died this morning." I said, "What do you mean?" basically
Wow.
what happened is um, Doreen was one of the patients in the care home that my mum worked in. And that particular day, Doreen tried to keep getting her attention, kept calling my mum's name. But my mum was busy doing some other stuff as well. And my mum wasn't on shift the next day. That was her last day before her day off. So when she left the care home, Doreen was alive and kicking. But mum got a text the next morning from one of the staff to say, that Doreen's passed away at like 2 o'clock this morning. So I'm like, oh, and that's the first time something like that happened to me because I thought, what is going on there? And what it seemed to be, and Mum said it's definitely Doreen because everything I said about the woman, including her name and how she called out to the staff, and again all the other evidence that I gave, is almost like that Doreen was almost calling my mum that day to almost say goodbye because she knew my mum wasn't going to be on shift the next day. My mum wasn't going to be there when she passed away. And my mum had really looked
Yeah.
after Doreen. And I think what the message came through, I think, was to say to my mum, thank you very much for the care that you gave to me. And I thought that one, it kind of threw me off a little bit because I thought, how does that even happen? But I think again with experience, as we've just talked about, I think it comes back to Doreen on some level in her subconscious knew that she was not going to be here tomorrow morning. And that was her
Yeah.
way of trying to get my mum's attention to say thanks before she actually went. Um, so that was very strange. I guess quite comforting in some ways. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. That's why I always say, look how intelligent we are. Look how intelligent the spirit world is. Like,
Mm,
we think that we don't know when it's going to happen, but we actually do. We always know what's going to happen. It's about that trust again, like we always keep banging on about. I know I do on all my posts,
yeah,
but trust that. And if you're sitting there and wondering, oh, did my loved one know that I was there holding their hand? Did my loved one know that I've been there every day? Yes, they do. They do know because we bring it through in the evidence, in the mediumship that we do. I don't know how many times I said, you did this and you did that and you did this. Yes, I did. Oh my God, yes, I said that. Yes, because they heard it. Even though they're non-verbal and they
yeah,
might not be conscious, they're hearing all of it. So
yeah,
we get it every day in the connections that we have. So people just our listeners, or if you're a medium, or if you're not a medium, like we just have to trust in our heart that our loved ones are hearing that because they actually are. They really are.
yeah. And that's one thing I said to that lady whose stepdad come through. I said, what he's saying to you, and there was a few tears there as well because she knew that it was her dad, although her stepdad couldn't verbally communicate what he wanted to say. It's almost like he was saying it in spirit because he really wanted her to know to know how grateful that he was that he was being cared for, he was being looked after, apologizing for being frustrated as you do with that disease. Look, it's a cruel disease, and I don't wish it upon anybody. Um, and and when you do have that disease, that Alzheimer's dementia, obviously patients are different. They differ, the symptoms and the reactions, and some get really angry because they're so frustrated that their mind, they've got a mind, but it's not working for them properly. And it's like he wants to come through and say, thank you for caring for me because I can't say it now. So that's why I said to her, I said, look, he might not always recognize you with his physical eyes, but this communication here shows me that he's still recognizing you with his spirit eyes. And he's still
Yeah,
trying to talk to you through his spirit voice, not his physical voice. And I actually
exactly.
thought it was quite, although it kind of took me back a little bit, it felt like it was needed for her and it brought her comfort with the fact that she had a few tears in her eyes as well. Um, because again, to watch someone go through that disease, it's horrendous. It's a very cruel disease. But I
It
think that
is.
that message I gave didn't soften it. That's probably the wrong term to use, but it gave a little bit of comfort to say that although he might be acting that way physically, actually spiritually he isn't suffering. If that makes sense, what I'm
No.
trying to say.
And he's not that person, that person that's
Yeah,
angry and frustrated and saying things that are hurtful. That's not them. And they
yeah,
acknowledge that. They always say, I'm so sorry, that's not me. I would never have wanted to hurt you in that way.
yeah,
They it's almost like they're stuck in their body and their mouth doesn't work anymore. But their mind is still working. So
yeah,
hence why we're getting that connection. Hence why, like we can pick up on that sort of thing. So one might argue this is psychic, one might argue it's mediumship. To me, I think to me, I've always thought it was mediumship, and it's kind of like, but it's a blending of both as well. So I don't know. It's my mentor always said it was mediumship. So I'd go figure. I think you have to
yeah.
draw
I would
your
believe
own conclusion.
that's it. Yeah, I mean, I believe it's mediumship as well because it's not like I'm sat in front of the man looking at him or reading his soul, right? Um,
Yeah.
it was purely paying attention to what he was giving me in my mind about what's happening now, and I'm quite aware anyway when I'm working psychically and when I'm not. Um, Again, as you say, people have to come to their own conclusions with that one, but my opinion is it was mediumship. Um, and to put another example on that as well, I don't know if you've had this as well, Glenda, is I've done another similar reading where I brought this woman's father-in-law through, and again, all the evidence was correct, what's going on in her life now, and what he was telling me about himself and all this business. She took everything, but he was still here, but he was on life support.
Yeah, coma.
So he was
Yep.
in a coma. It was only the machine that was keeping him alive because he had no brain activity. And that one
Yeah,
freaked me out as
see,
well because that was a very early one that I did. I was like, oh,
just proves it. It proves it.
that's the third
There's
time something
still
similar's happened. Yeah.
so that it's just that the consciousness, it's just it keeps going. So there's no turning it off.
No, exactly.
Hence,
Yeah.
hence why we can't. There's no turning it off.
So I just seen in my head there a tap. Maybe this analogy that I need to give. I don't know. Is that tap is always flowing. That
It
tap,
is.
there's a washer in the tap which is broken, so you can't turn that tap off. It keeps flowing no matter what you want to do. You can put the plug in the bath, but it just fills up and it just keeps going. So there's no end to it. I don't know why I want to
And
say
that's what
that.
we are.
Just got
But
shaky
that's what
heads.
we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what we are. The consciousness keeps going, even though the body stays behind, that vessel that I always call it the meat suit.
Yeah,
We get here and we put on the meat suit, and
that's it.
you know that can die off, but the consciousness keeps going. We keep moving forward. We keep living. We keep learning, I guess. And some people believe we go to another planet or another. Who knows where we end up? We'll never
Mm,
know that. But it's not shut. It's the door's not shut. The door between us and the spirit world's not shut, no matter what state you're in.
yeah. And I know
So,
a lot of media out there, we don't like the term, oh, I've got this energy with me and the energy of this person, energy of that. But just for, no, just for example's sake, as Einstein once said, you can't kill energy. It simply just transforms. So it goes from one place to the next. So from your physical body into the spirit world. So it's a, it's, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an eternal type of it. I don't know what I'm
eternal.
saying, but like an eternal type of energy. Just keeps going, just keeps going. So yeah.
That's it.
So this is just an
But
interesting conversation, isn't it? I think just give people food for thoughts.
yeah, but it also reminds those that if you're going through something like this, that keep talking to your people, even though they have dementia. Keep telling them your stories.
Yes.
Keep just sit there beside them, like tell them what's going on in your life. You think you're talking to no one, but they're listening and they're hearing and they want to hear all of this. Like they want to know what's going on in your life. Tell them what you had for breakfast, like
Yeah.
all that stuff. I babble on, man, I could talk underwater. So,
I've never read the one before like that.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I do. I can talk underwater. I just sit there babbling, you know what I mean? And I've had some amazing evidence come through with, oh, and you said this to your mum and you said that and you played this music. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I said all of that, like. So keep doing that, even at their transition, keep talking to them. Even if you've got
Absolutely.
nothing, if you've got nothing to say, just tell them what you saw on TV that day. Like I kept saying to Dad, it's this day on the time and what time of day it was and the date and all that because he was that type of person. He was a man that wrote down the weather every freaking day. I tell you, when I clean this house out, I'm going to find notes of what the weather was in 2019 on Saturday the 5th. He wrote down everything. So I did that. I sat beside his bed and said, it's Saturday, such and such, and it's really cold outside. It's 6 degrees today. Like, tell them that stuff
Yeah.
because if that's the person they were and they were interested in that, if they liked clothes or they liked a specific show on TV, tell them what's happened that day because they take it in. They're still conscious. They're
Yeah.
still there. Their consciousness is still alive, even though their body is slowly dying or the body is shutting down. Their consciousness isn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that. Just one last thing just to touch on. Which I think might be important to talk about. I don't know. People might need to hear it, might not. Um, but coming back to what you said earlier on about believe that the soul knows when it's going to pass. I want to link that to people feeling guilty for not being there when someone passes or whatever. Um, because I've had many of those readings where people have carried this guilt with them because they'd left the room for 2 minutes to go and get a cup of tea or to go,
Hmm.
go to the loo, and their loved one has passed in that time.
Hmm.
And they've been with them all day long, but that 2 minutes that they've not been there, they decide to go, right, I'm leaving now. And and I think that's it. They decide when they're gonna go. As humans, we want to keep our loved ones here, and I get that, understand it, been through it. But I think we learn that actually it's not up to us how long someone stays here. It's up to that's the consciousness, the essence, whatever you want to call it, of that person. It's their journey, and it's up to them when they want to pass. So, for anyone listening that's been through that situation or does feel guilt about they weren't there at the moment the loved one passed, remember it's it's their decision, their choice, but also sometimes they don't want you to see that. And anyone that's been with someone and you've actually watched someone leave this earth, it's not the most pleasant of experiences, to be perfectly honest. And sometimes you are meant to be there because you being with that person, it may help them transition. But there are other cases as well where your loved one doesn't want you to have that lasting image on your mind of your loved one passing. And sometimes your loved one feels that it's easier to let go when you're not in the room. Because again, I think it comes back to this
Absolutely.
consciousness that they're still conscious that there's someone in the room with them, although they might seem out of it. Again, because the consciousness is still there, they're aware. Let's say no, let's say you've got a granddad, and you're really close to your granddad, and your granddad's passed, and you're there with him. Although your granddad might seem out of it, there's still got a consciousness that his grandchild is there with him. And sometimes that consciousness may wait for that grandchild to leave that room to go and speak to a nurse or to a doctor or say get a cup of tea or whatever, and they go, right, now's the time, they've left the room, I can let go now because I don't want my granddaughter to see me
Take my last
leave
breath.
at my last
Yeah.
breath. and see the actual physical reaction of what the body goes through when you die, basically, right?
Yeah.
Without going into all the details of it. And so that is sometimes the case, people. So, and again, I'm only bringing that up because I've had so many people who felt this sense come to me who felt such a sense of guilt because they didn't get there quick enough, or they'd left the room and then they wish I hadn't left the room, and all that kind of stuff. So again, it comes back to that, our souls, our consciousness are still fully aware right up until the end. Um, and so yeah, so please don't carry any sense of guilt because they're no, they're in charge. We're not in charge.
Yeah. It's their decision. And um, I feel like they don't want us to carry that burden either.
No,
They don't
exactly.
want that, like exactly what you said, that to have that as last memories as that. Um, it's us as humans that just want.
Mm,
But they're transitioning to spirit. They're not in any pain. And I can tell you, having that NDE when I was floating off to the spirit world, it was amazing. It was so warm. It was so full of love. So I'm telling you, when they're transitioning, it's absolutely beautiful. But they don't want you sometimes to be there.
yeah.
I remember years ago, before was even doing this, I read something in a book and it said something about when you hold their hand and they're trying to transition, it makes it so much harder for them to let go. I read that, and back in the day, I was like, oh, wow, really? Oh, I'll make sure I don't hold their hand then, like I was like, far out. You believe everything, but I really don't believe that that
No,
is the case. I believe that when they're ready, they're
they just
ready,
go. They're ready. Exactly.
They
Yeah.
just go. And I tell you something really interesting. So when my mum was transitioning, it was horrific. It was 35 days. It was the most awful thing I've had to witness in this life. And everyone was saying, why isn't she going yet? Like, why isn't she gone? Is she, the nurses are going, is she waiting for someone to say goodbye? And I'm like, no, no, she'll go when it's her time, like when she's
Mm,
ready. Well, it was so weird, but her and her brother died in the same week.
no.
So I still go back to that thing about the contracts. Do you know how I always bang on about we sit down at that big table in spirit and tick that box and tick that box? I still reckon they sat down and just went, let's go together. Let's go at the same time, like, because he's on the other side of the world and she's over here, and here they are dying, and there was nothing wrong with him at that time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how how did this happen in a matter of days? What was she waiting for? And everyone's going, what is she waiting for? She was waiting for him. They're
Mm,
going to transition together. So I just go, was this organized before they came? Did they say, let's go out together? You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like, to me, everyone's like, oh my God, this is horrific, and for, my dad's like, oh my God, I've just lost my sister and my brother, like my real dad, he's just going, he's trying to wrap his head around it, where I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective, going, they've just gone home together. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that makes me ask, was this pre-organized before they come, or did this just happen? Again, they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it's just one of those questions that people, because there's similar things that when people um, pass on someone's birthday or someone's anniversary, people ask a similar question:
Yeah.
Is there a reason? Is there something in that? Or when people pass on exactly the same date they were born, is there a reason? Is there something in that as well? And look, we don't know what the answers, right? And we're never going to know the answers. But um, I try not to question it too much. I think sometimes I just got to let it be as it is. It's not always um, a specific reason behind it. And I think people wind themselves up thinking, is it a bad omen? I don't think it's a bad omen at all. I think again, it is as it is. You might not want someone to pass on your birthday, and I completely understand why. But again, spirit will pass when it is their time. And actually saying that, I don't know what your thoughts are, Glenda, but um, and my mum has a similar thought process actually. And my mum doesn't do this work, but we believe that when someone's time is up, someone's time is up. We can't really do anything about it. And we
Yep.
said it from personal experience because my mum's brother, my uncle, he died of a heart attack at the age of 36. No warning,
So young.
just dead at 36, and had two children, two younger children. And as tough as it was at the time, and obviously at that time I wasn't doing this work because I was only 16 at the time. Um, and looking back at it now, you think his time was just his time. There's there's nothing we anyone could have done about it. Um, and I think yeah, so that's just our thought process, our thought process, I guess. And as a family, when other people in the family have passed, it's like again, what can we do? There's nothing we can. It's we can't stop someone from passing.
No,
Um,
I'll tell you something I know of. Back in the day, we're talking 30 years ago, I was dating a guy and he said to me, do you remember the big bus accidents? I think it was in Melbourne or something. There was two coaches and they had a massive accident, right? And so many people died. It was horrific. And he said, oh, one of a guy I knew died on that. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And his two best friends were supposed to go on that bus or the coach, but they missed it. So they drove. They also had an accident and died. So were they meant to be on that bus? Was that their day? How weird, don't you
yeah,
think?
absolutely.
It's
And it's,
like they were supposed to, didn't. They drove instead and had a car accident and died anyway.
yeah,
Do, do, do,
that's
do, do, do,
yeah.
do.
And to put another example on it for a bit of I don't know, let's call it pop culture or whatever. But when Lisa Left Eye Lopez from TLC, love TLC, great female group. She when she died, she was in a car with seven people. Out of the seven people, she's the only one who passed. And it's a situation
Wow.
like you think out of that, out, she was a driver, but there's seven other people in the car who would have thought, oh, it must have been a big car for them all to fit in, but to have that amount of people, but she's the only one that passed. I question things like that and go because I know she was a very spiritual woman anyway, and I know she believed in what we're talking about as well. And I just think, was she being called back because of who she
Yeah.
was and her spirituality? Was she being called back, and that was her time to go, and the rest of them it just wasn't their time? So it's things I think people like
We'll
try
never
to
know.
no, and people I think skeptics out there try and say, oh, it's coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence whatsoever. I believe in chance. Some things happen by chance, but I think sometimes you have got to look at that and question it and go, yeah, why did they not get on that bus? Why did they drive but still die? Why was she the only
See?
one out of seven people that passed in that car accident? Um, and other things like that recent one, that Air India plane crash, that one guy survived. I mean, come on, what the chances of that? That obviously was not his time to go.
A plane crash. How do you
Yeah,
survive a plane crash?
how'd you
Like
survive it?
from up there.
Yeah, I know that there are conspiracy theories around it, which I'm not going to get into, but I think well that he was someone up there was protecting him. But I do feel that anyway. I do feel like I've always felt quite protected. I can't explain to you why, but I
Me
always
too.
have felt it. But I can't put a logical or rational explanation on why I feel that way. Um, and so yeah, so I think just these things that sometimes we just don't have to question, but it's definitely food for thought and thinking, okay, how does it work? Are we, and as I said before though, my mentality is when we're meant to go, we're meant to go. We can't do anything about it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, And
We're
might
always
sound
going to
quite,
hear these amazing stories of, how people survive this and survive that. And again, it
yeah,
comes back to the consciousness. It wasn't the time of the
wasn't the
consciousness to
time.
leave at that time.
No, they've got more work to do. There's something else here that they need
Yeah.
to accomplish or finish or get on with or whatever else. So yeah, definitely food for thought here, Glenda.
We would love
What?
to hear what our listeners think about this conversation.
Yeah,
Like I'd love a bit of feedback to hear what their thoughts are, even if it's a yay or a no, like, yes, I believe this, or no, I don't believe in this stuff, or anything. What are your thoughts? And I am sure we have got a handful of mediums that even listen to this. Give us your thoughts. Mediums out there, give it, we're open
yeah.
to the conversation. Um, I just find it so interesting.
Yeah, what are your
So,
experiences, people? Have you experienced similar
yeah.
things or your thought process the same? If it's different to ours, that's okay because it is at the end of the day, it's just an opinion, right? We're just giving our personal experience and our opinion. So if you disagree, then that's fine. Um, it's just interesting to hear other people's thoughts on it. But I
But
think,
as
oh,
our friend Ollie says, my head hurts thinking about it. I'm with him. Hey, Ollie Cox, I'm with
yeah.
you. My head hurts thinking about it, so I just shut off and I don't want to think about it anymore.
Yeah, that's true because you could be thinking about things all day long and wind yourself up on a regular basis, which I try not to do. Um, but there you go. But Glenda, I think that's a great place to end the conversation today. I think it's been interesting to talk about it and to give our personal experiences on it because again, I'm always conscious that when we talk about topics, when we always say anyway, what we talk about is based on our own experience. It's based on our own viewpoints and opinions. Um, and so it's good, I think, to get our opinion out there and see what other people think about it. And this conversation may validate something for someone listening who's been thinking about this over and over again, who've been winding themselves up about certain things. And maybe and hopefully this conversation will yeah, maybe put the mind at ease or validate something. But yeah, let us know, people, what you think. But
Mm.
Glenda, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yes, I love our catch-ups, David. We should do them more often.
Yes, no, we will. We will, people. So yeah, we'll be back in the Spirit Lounge again soon. But until that time, look after yourselves, and we'll see you again at some point in the Spirit Lounge.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.